Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 5. Before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, this episode this week really gave us a lot of stuff. I mean, we're only, 5 episodes in. They're on the beginning of the honeymoon. But this cast is really giving us a lot to work with. So let's just jump right in. All right, I'm gonna kick it off with Steve and Noi. So Steve and Noi, I think right now they are my favorite couple. I think, like I said before, they have the most natural, organic chemistry, that you could see them kind of meeting at a kickback or like a housewarming, and they kind of just connect with each other. And I think they are expressing how organic and natural it is for them to be so comfortable so quickly. I watch them and enjoy them. When they were talking about when do you go number 2 in this relationship, because all of those things that you try to hide when you're first dating is now you're like talking about it with someone that you met a few days ago. So they had me laughing. There's a lot of times just seeing their banter back and forth and their sarcasm, their wit with each other, had me laughing. I enjoy seeing them. I think that they are going to give us like a really good depiction of hopefully what could be a couple that really does well in this experiment. Pause for cause though. My pause is with Noi. I think it's so great that she's all in and she's so connected to him that she thinks she's falling in love, but I can't get into the love thing 3 days in. I personally don't believe in it. I don't believe in that immediate love. And I'm not going to project that people can't say that they fall in love immediately, but I feel like love embodies so much, and love really embodies a commitment that is all about loving all of the person, even when there are parts of them that you don't like, and loving them through very ugly times and hard times and experiences, and loving them through characteristics you want them to change, and aspects of them that isn't so great. Because when we think of love, we romanticize all the wonderful things about it, which is fine because there's a part of that that is very much true. But to say you love someone that you met 3 days ago, it makes me question, well, how do you identify love? You know, if we're talking about, and Noi always talks about her parents and them being together for so long, and how she really, you know, is idolizing their relationship and is so impressed with their relationship. I think she's like really giddy. I think that it is kind of lust at first sight, not even sexual lust, but like the excitement of lust at first sight, the butterflies, and she is throwing love into it. And I think that I appreciate Steve not saying it back or being forced to say, I'm falling in love too, or I could see, like, he's being realistic. And, you know, of course they play the music and they produce it, and it's like, wah, 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 when he says, thank you for telling me that. Is there like a better response? Sure. But do I think his response was terrible? Not really. I think he is a good opposite for her, where she's kind of like ready to jump all in. I think he's jumped all in. I think he's just being really thoughtful about, I want to be honest about being in love. I don't want to just say it just to say it. And is it me, or has it only been 3 days? So I'm on Team Steve this episode, because it's sweet. They're genuine. I think that if they continue getting to know each other and kind of overcoming things and working out their differences, they will get there. But I think for her to even toss it out so early, expecting anything other than she got, I think that's like wishful thinking, girl. Just pump the brakes a little bit, enjoy your man, have a good time. If it's Sunday, you met him Thursday, it has not been that long. I really enjoy just their dynamic, and I think they will also have to really learn when to give and take in terms of their interests, because when they were matched, a lot of what Noi would say is she wants an adventurous person. Well, here she has gotten quite an adventurous person, but he is way more adventurous than she is in particular ways. And there's different adventure. You know, some people might want to skydive. That's an adventure. Some people want to camp. That's another adventure. Those are two totally different things, totally different risks, but those are adventures. So I think when they were talking about the camping, and she was like, I don't like that. I don't like anything about that, and he's kind of like, oh, well, I want to enjoy this with my wife. Part of being in a seasoned marriage and really getting to know the person that you're with is learning when to give and take. It's learning that your spouse, learning and being okay with the fact that your spouse does not actually have to share all the same interests. You guys have to have some commonalities for sure, but I may never want to go camping, or I may go camping once to say I did it, and then that's maybe a guy's trip or something. I think they'll learn how to do their dance and find common adventures that they want to do together. A lot of times when people get into these new spaces, they're like, we have to do everything together, and that's just, no, you don't. Coming up on 5 years in May, no, you don't. You learn to do things together that you love, and then you learn to do things apart, things with your friends, things with a brother, a sister, and it all works. It doesn't have to be this thing that is like, oh, maybe we're not compatible. It's not. Find something else that you guys like to do together. So Steve and Noi, I think they're doing great. Nothing overwhelming yet. I think they're going to consummate soon because they both have that energy of wanting to do that or being interested in doing that. So I'll be excited to see how they continue to go on. All right, next we have Michael and Jasmina. So Michael is getting on my nerves this episode. I'm trying to say it nicely, but he really got on my nerves this episode. Michael, he seems like a very sweet spirit, but he clearly has a bunch of stuff to work on, as do they all. But in this space, Michael is like the king of sabotage. And here's the thing. They both can kind of sabotage this situation by Jasmina holding on to what his sister said and seeing that in every perspective where it may not be there. It could just be exactly what he's saying. What he could say is very valid, but she might be holding on to that and seeing that through that lens. But also Michael, and because of his trauma, and I get it, he is putting the worst case scenario before, or the possibility of the worst case scenario, and like living in that space. Now, before I get into what he should have done, I understand that. And I forgot all the losses, but I knew that there was more loss than just his mom. I believe I said his father as well. But seeing his brother pass away when he was 6 years old, those are formative years. So when you're experiencing trauma, like, you're stunted in the time frame of trauma. And unless you process that and really work through it, you will operate from that time and space. That's why we see a lot of adults running around acting like children or responding very childlike. And we're like, well, he or she's an adult and they need to XYZ. Well, that sounds great, but that's not always the case. They may have not evolved maturely beyond that stunted phase. So there's definitely work to be done there, and I can see, because now he's like bubble wrapped himself in the sense that I'm going to protect myself in order to avoid the damning pain of what could be when you've had loss after loss after loss. I get that. With that being said, he has to work through that, because he is going to successfully alienate himself, sabotage relationships in order to avoid being hurt. Logically, if you ask him that, he'll probably say, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do XYZ. But the way you're going about it, simply because you don't have another reason or another way to do it, is what you're gonna do. That dialogue between him or the argument between him and Jasmina about her cutting him off on the boat. I mean, we were able to see the footage when I think, Ola, I'm gonna call him Ola for short. Ola basically asked, hey, had anybody consummated their marriage? And Michael made a statement, there was a beat, and then Jasmina made a statement about it. She didn't cut him off, we all saw that. Only if real life had these play the moment tapes, because I think every couple would do that, because when you're in it, you don't see around it. But it didn't happen, and honestly, even if it did, let's just say for the sake of this conversation, it did. I think the way that it happened was an organic, like, continuation of answering the question to the couple when they say, have you consummated your marriage? We're not just talking to you, Michael. Jasmina can jump in there and share her own experience. Anyways, him going about it, being aggressive from her perspective, and he didn't deny that. And he also said that his sisters and friends have told him that, brothers have told him that. We see that, you know, he kind of is attacking in order to like protect himself, in order to not experience what he thinks he's experiencing or what could be. He's overthinking to a fault. I really like that Jasmina stood up for herself. People treat you the way you let them. I like that she said, you're going to speak to me more respectfully. That's not okay. Here are the things that are not going to happen. I like that she didn't back down. He's going to need a strong woman. He's going to need a woman who is sure of herself and who challenges him to do differently, see differently, do better, because what he said happened didn't. And we've all been a victim of being in our emotions, and we don't recall things as clearly as we think we do. So I'm glad that she really stood firm on that. You know, Jasmina, some of the things that come to mind for me with her is her long-term relationships. Having not ever had a relationship in person, every single relationship being long-term, red flag. Like, why is that? Why aren't you connecting with people who are here? A long-term relationship or long-distance relationship is harder, is not as harder in some ways, but if you're not having that day-to-day interaction, there's an experience that you really can't have long distance. And so I would question how she's going to do well faced with a relationship that's in her face every single day. And also, one of the things for me that came up with them was the apology. So ideally, sorry you felt that way is not a good apology. It isn't, because it's like, I don't really feel sorry and I don't really believe I have anything to be sorry for, but I'm sorry that you feel that way. Ideally, overall, that's not a great apology. It's not really an apology. However, I think that it was suitable for this scenario because what he said happened didn't really happen. And so I think that I like that she stood by it and said, I'm not taking ownership of you telling me I did something that I didn't do. But I will apologize because clearly it has an effect on you. I do think that, but I do agree with Michael that, you know, that apology in future situations wouldn't work if it was something that did happen. What's really important with them though, and towards the end he got it, is what he's going to do differently. Because it's like, okay, next time I won't do that, or I'm working on that. A lot of people say I'm working on that. How? You know, because we'll say we're working on it because our intention is like, I don't want to do the same thing again, but what are you doing differently? So I like that he said, I'm going to bring it up in that moment. Perfect. We can't deny the moment when we're in it. You just did this. No, I didn't. Or or yes, I did. You'll be able to see it in that moment so that we can avoid this lingering thing where now we're so far from it, especially if the other person is like in a different world, not even thinking about it, and you're sitting there ruminating on it. Therefore, we can handle it and move on, and it could be as accurate as it can be. But they could, but right now I don't know if they will in terms of the relationship, because you know there's a lot of self-work that needs to be done that's already getting in the way in very, very simple ways. So although I'm rooting for them, I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, so next we have Juan and Katina. So Juan and Katina, like, they were up and down for me this episode. I like them. I think I've said that though. I like them. They're rough around the edges. They're like the wild child couple that would have been great in their 20s, you know. And I'm not saying they wouldn't be great now. I just think starting out with marriage is going to be tougher than they think, because I don't necessarily know that they're ready. And a good example of that is when Juan tests her at the gym. They go work out together, and Katina wants to have a good time. Like, I want to work out with my husband, it's my new husband, blah, blah, blah. He clearly, that's his thing. He loves the gym, and he is like training her as if she's some athlete and he's really getting into her and is being really aggressive. We already know Elijah Juan's at a 9.5 at all times. So to see him really get aggressive, that was really off-putting. But when she got to a point where she was like, I don't like that, she just stopped. She was like, I don't like that. Like you can tell that you can push her a little bit, but you're not going to get too far. And she recalled that, if this was at a different time in her life, she would have cried. So she's probably had that experience where maybe she didn't stand up for herself before, and she's not going to let that happen again. I don't like that Elijah Juan did that, because don't stop playing games. Because later on when the guys meet and they're hanging out, he says that he's testing her. Mean what you say and say what you mean. That's it. It can, don't complicate a relationship or marriage when there's plenty of life things that happen that can complicate it naturally. Even just being together, two adults who've done their own thing for so long now have to merge their lives and learn how to dance together. That's complicated enough. So when he was doing that, I was like, that's so childlike. That's so unnecessary. It just adds an element to the relationship that really shouldn't be. It's like, I want to call this person, but I'm going to wait 3 days because I don't want to seem too eager. Like, that's so childlike. You like the person, call the person, make the plans, just move on. Like, say what you mean and mean what you say. And I think that if he continues that behavior, testing her, I hope he doesn't do that with the cooking and all these domesticated things that he expects from her when she's clearly like, I don't really cook. I don't really, they need to grow together. Like, he is really in no position to, be testing her. They need to be like growing together. So I hope that that's not a recurring theme from him, because that's like immature. Like, are you ready for a marriage? There's no time for that. And really, you guys just met. Your focus should be just getting to know that person, because they don't have an allegiance for your BS. The emotional connection that happens over time. Now I have patience for some of your crap. Otherwise, I'm just going to be like, I'm out, because this is not, what is this? It feels antagonistic. It doesn't feel like what he thinks it is. This is small, but I feel like small things can be big things if they keep happening over time. I love the end of the relationship though on this episode. I think that they genuinely both are excited to be in this marriage together. I think that Elijah Juan is excited to really settle down and want to be with her. And he's genuine, and I can see that. But this Isaac character, I can't. First of all, I just can't with Isaac. That's one. So initially, I cannot with Isaac. But the fact that he keeps bringing this alter ego up, to me, feels like that person isn't too far behind. If that person is gone, if that part of you is dead, and you decided, I'm going to be different because the way I was living my life is not conducive to the things that I want, is not conducive to the type of person that I've become, that I want to continue to grow, in this marriage, why are we still talking about it? And I think when he recalls what his, alter ego used to be, there is a little bit of romanticism in what a wild and fun time that was. Whereas when people are really door closed on an aspect of their life, they're very finite in it. It's like, I did that. That wasn't me. I'm not on that. Next. People keep asking, well, what did Isaac do? You guys, that was young, immature, irresponsible Isaac. Why are we talking about this? I think that your new wife doesn't need to constantly hear about this alter ego that was intimate with a mother and a sister. I mean, it's just, I had my mouth open and I was just embarrassed for Katina. But I think she took it like a champ. She took it better than I would have, because he just has that energy, and I think she takes it like, okay, well, this is not going to happen now, and I can't change the past, so let's move on. But his giddiness in this person he used to be, let's move on. Why is it still so relevant? We talked about it, let's put it to bed. So therein lies my apprehension, because I don't necessarily think that person is completely gone. I feel like when he is faced with new life experiences that trigger the autopilot of that alter ego, and he does not do what he used to do, now we're seeing the chrysalis turn into a butterfly. Now we're seeing him really like step up and say, this is who I am now. It's easy to say I'm not gonna eat the chocolate cake when there's no chocolate cake, but then put the chocolate cake in front of me and I might taste it, or I might not. And then, I'm good. So I'm interested in seeing how they continue to grow. They'll give us great footage. I mean, they will shock us, I'm sure, like they've been so far. So that is Elijah, Juan, and Katina. Next we have, who off the top of my dome? Alyssa and Chris. Last week I called her pathetic, and I'm gonna stand by that. I think she gave us a new low this week of just how pathetic she really can be. She's just, so I watched After Party, and Katina was saying, she doesn't present in the way that she can be, and she has a good heart and all of these things. And, she even said, I'm the sweetest I've treated everyone so nicely. And I'm like, girl, if this is how you are when you're sweet, I would really hate to see how you are when you're not. She does not have to be attracted to him. Like, everyone isn't attracted to everyone, and that's fine. I think treating the person like they're disgusting, or I think that's a really sad thing to really tell someone, or to treat them like as if they're just so deplorably gross. I wonder how that's playing for him in not feeling desired. Everyone wants to feel desired. Not that you have to desire everyone, and not that everyone has to desire you, but to feel so, to be made to feel so gross, essentially. I think that is where my biggest issue with her is, because it doesn't have to be that deep. You can be honest and say, you know what? And she has been honest, like very honest about, hey, the experts got it wrong. This is not what I signed up for. But it just seems more hurtful. And it's like, just be a decent person. And that bothers me about her. And then it makes me think, like, do you really think that you're that great? Because your attitude is making you incredibly unattractive. And it's just, you're no better than another person. At least just hang out. I don't know if she's just trying to get like a free honeymoon at this point, probably is. But even her saying, okay, after she kind of showed out last week, I'm gonna have a good time. I'm gonna, spend time with him and just hang out. They didn't get it right for me, but whatever. Even the way she shows up in that, like, he does her activity, the paddle boarding, not his thing, but he does it. But he's so excited about this other activity, and she says swimming is not an activity. A, it is. B, he did more than swimming. It was like scuba diving or whatever it was. And she just didn't want to do it. And even if she didn't want to do it, like, her attitude, her demeanor could have been so much more like supportive. Like, oh, that's not my thing. I'm scared of doing that. That's a little too much for me, but tell me all about it. We can have a cocktail. Like, he can just be a friend. Clearly it's not going to work out. But she doesn't do that. She's sitting at the table. She's mad that her mom actually challenged her to be a decent person and not look like a expletive on TV. You succeeded, girl. You do look like that. And she's upset about that. She's sitting there whining like a child. And then as he's coming back from this activity that he was so excited to do with her that she didn't, excited to tell her about it, because who else is he with on this honeymoon? She tells production to tell him not to come over there because she's sitting there crying about how unfair this whole experience is for her and how she is not happy. She's really tough to watch. Like, out the gate, she's tough to watch. And if you knew that you're the type of person to see someone at the altar and know that if they're not aesthetically pleasing to you, then you're out immediately, then just don't do the experiment. There's a lot of people like that. Don't do the experiment. Like, don't take the chance. Don't get into somebody else's spot who could actually see it through and really be there for the right reasons. And I just wish that Chris could, like, clap back a little bit as far as we've seen, he's like too nice for that. But I wish, because she's saying the experts got it wrong to him, and she's talking about meeting with her psychic, and he has an eagle tattoo, and that was a whole thing, because then, or a lion tattoo, and then she changed it to an eagle tattoo because Steve has a lion tattoo. It was a mess. It all came up on After Party. I wish that Chris would clap back and say, you know what, the experts did get it wrong, because I was expecting someone who was genuine and wanting to be a part of this experience, and a nice human being. Like, I wish he could clap back so that she doesn't think that she's the only one slighted here, because he's really slighted. He's actually the one who's slighted, not her. So that's it. That's it with Alyssa and Chris. I feel bad for him. We know they're not going to last. So it's not too much more going on with them. But that's my 2 cents on this week's episode. Last but not least, we have Lindsey and Mark. So the debacle continues with Lindsey and Mark in terms of kind of the stuff that started with Lindsey and the plane and Elijah, Juan, and Katina and everything. That continues on. With the two of them as a couple, some of the things that have come up, you start seeing Mark question, is this person someone that he really wants? Like, okay, this has happened once, this has happened twice, but is this going to be a reoccurring theme for me in my marriage, that I'm always going to have to, get a hold of my wife, and not in some archaic manly way, but like I have to now control her because she drinks too much and she acts out of pocket and she gets in trouble, and I have to like clean this up all the time. That's not really what I want. And we're seeing him start to pull back. Now, they consummated their marriage. And from After Party, she said that they that day alone, they had been intimate like 3 times before that romantic dinner. But we're seeing him kind of talk to the guys and kind of question, like, is this something that he really wants with her? And, can he really do it? I think even their connection together, I don't think that they're really that connected, to be honest. When he was talking to her about his past relationships, I think she could have like waited a beat and just kind of absorbed, because his concern earlier on that he told her was, hey, let's not drink too much today, because things don't really go well when you drink too much. And she was like, I was really tired. And he's like, no, you had 3 bottles of wine. Problem number 1, 3 bottles of wine is more than excessive for one person. Okay. So that's the first problem. And she needs to kind of be aware that is a lot. And that's what caused you to act so out of pocket. But along with probably not being challenged from other people. But he says, hey, let's not do that today. And then we see that he's talking to the guys, and we're seeing him, be a little apprehensive. When he was talking to her about past relationships and how he had an ex who drank too much and would kind of show out, I didn't see like an awareness for her. And she immediately answers, instead of just kind of being present and saying, wow, that must have been hard, or whatever the case, because he mentioned a couple of other things. Her immediate response was like, it looks like you like to help people, like, but not in a way that helping is good, but it's like being consumed with helping, instead of really taking it in and maybe seeing how, I don't think she has that self-awareness, really seeing how she has shown up in that way. Like, it was clear to me, oh my God, you attract maybe this because here she is again, and maybe what's that about? But just kind of sitting and thinking what he's saying and getting to know him that way, rather than just trying to blurt something out. Like, she's always rushing to speak and not really rushing to actively listen in the same way. And we see that at that romantic dinner that he had set up, he is dancing around and very much beating around the bush and saying like, let's pump the brake on all this stuff. But he eventually gets there. And I think the reason is he is apprehensive that he doesn't know he wants to continue and build a marriage with a woman who he's going to have to corral all the time, because that's going to be his role, that he has to be that person. He wants someone who can be just as emotionally supportive and be as an emotional anchor for him as he is for her, like an equal, not somebody that he's going to have to pull from the depths of her own, destruction because she just can't handle herself. She does not respond well to that. No surprise there. She gets real nasty and says things, if you watch the episode, says things about all the things that he can pull back on. And, it's 0 to 100. It's either I'm all in, or I'm nothing, and she gets up, she's really upset. And it's not a good conversation. The thing that I will say after watching After Party, the one point that I will give Lindsey is she said that they had been intimate, if this is to be true, they had been intimate like 3 times that day. So when you set up this beautiful dinner and you're having sex all the time for that day, that does not really read, let's slow down, right? So I get where she's probably frustrated and is blindsided because she thinks that this person is all in. So I don't think that Mark should have done that. But I do agree with Mark's apprehension and him wanting to take things a little bit slower and get to know her so that he can decide if this is the right person for him. I don't have a hard and fast rule about when they should have sex on the show. I don't think it should be early. Sex clouds things. It really, really does. And everybody's entitled and you're an adult and I get it. But I think every time we see it happen so quickly and something like this happens, well, now she has feelings. Now she's feeling, hey, like he's in it. Like we're intimate. He's giving me all of this affirmation. And so to be kind of blindsided, I get it, which is why I think people should just take a beat, just a beat. I don't know what that beat is because I can't say, well, you should wait 5 days, but I wish that they would and get to know each other. Within a few days of being with someone 100% of the time, you can decide like, listen, the sex isn't even worth it. Like, I'm not even going to do it because then it's going to make things a little more connected. And I don't know that I want to be connected to that person. I really think that like should be strongly advised. Like, you guys are adults. Please feel free to do what you want, but just think about it for a moment. And if you both decide, fine. But, give yourself 4 days, give yourself 5 days. I know that sounds long, but it's really not when you've never seen the person before. And just see, because by day 3, you can say, I could absolutely not deal with this person. And I don't even want to take it there because I don't want to waste my time and get in deeper. So I really wish that they would have done that because it would have avoided some stuff. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't think that if they didn't have sex, that Lindsey would have taken their progress and the desire for him to stagnate just a little bit and like rest in that place. I don't think she would have taken it well because she doesn't take being challenged well. So yeah, and I think that she's rushing into it because of this like savior, this idea of the savior. Like, she got into it, he jumped in, he cleaned it up for her, and she's in love with him. She sat on the boat with the girls. He is the one for me. I'm in love with him. Girl, no, he's not. Like, no, you're not. No, he's not. No, you're not. You don't know him. You don't know him. He is not the one for you just yet. He could be. We have not seen that yet. For sure, you haven't seen it yet. But even that very excited, almost childlike, like it's almost like you meet somebody at the sandbox and then they're my best friend. This is my best friend, Margaret. Like, y'all just met and it's very cute. That could be your best friend, Margaret, when you're 5. But when we're adults, we take a little time to get to know the essence of the person before we can say, I really like that person. More or less, I'm in love with them and that's the person for me. So judging her character is like, I'm a little questioning what's going on with her there. Last but not least, I thought it was important to kind of bring up the dialogue between Katina and Lindsey on the boat. Katina did not hold back. Katina did not hold back. Lindsey tried to share why she felt triggered on the plane and why she responded the way she responded, and even, you know, said, I will fight you, or like, do you want to fight, or XYZ. Why, you know, essentially why poking of the bear was fun and light and it wasn't a big deal, and, you know, why she is the victim in the scenario. And Katina holds no punches, and I appreciate that about her, because I feel like, based on the way that Lindsey presents, people have probably held the punches all her life. And we've seen her dad, we've seen her brother, we've seen her friends kind of enable it. They may not like it, but, oh, you gotta ring her in. It's like fighting a crocodile. Here's the no button. All these reaffirming themes of she is somebody that you have to save from herself. You are a grown woman. People shouldn't have to do that anymore. And you don't know, for you to say that you were triggered based on XYZ, you don't know what triggers people. You don't. And I think it's important, and you don't have a relationship with this person where you can joke. There's certain things that good friends, we say amongst ourselves, and it's like, that would never be offensive, because it's like, we're joking. But if a person walks in, they don't know you, and they make the same joke, it's like, no, didn't find that funny. I don't have that rapport where you could feel so comfortable. And I think that Lindsey really needs to be careful about that, because not once have we truly seen her recount what actually happened. We know what happened from the entire cast. We saw it on the show. We also saw it on After Party, where they kind of talked about it. Not once did Lindsey say, hey, this is what happened. So she didn't recount the situation. Not only did she not recount the situation, but she didn't find a way to take responsibility or be accountable for her actions and what they played in this situation. She wants to poke the bear, but then when she gets her finger taken, all of a sudden somebody bit my finger, and I have a problem with that. I think that it was really important, and I really love that Keisha on After Party really kind of explained the historical context of why that was so triggering. Because on After Party, Lindsey says, well, you said that you jumped in, and that's what triggered me. Katina jumped in, and that's what triggered me. And Katina had to say, hey, you said something like, you know, do you want to fight, or I'll fight you. As a woman, now I have to jump in, because my husband is a man. I'm not going to let him, that's not going to happen. He wouldn't do it anyways, but that's not going to happen. But basically, you were so drunk. There were recounts of you kind of having the flight attendant having to tell you to be quiet and all of these things. So you were out of order. Everyone is on the same page that you were out of order, yet somehow you are the victim. Now, culturally, it was really, really important that Keisha explained that to her so she understands. Culturally, historically, Black men have been lynched and killed and tortured and jailed for offenses that may not have happened in relation to white women. I mean, there's a time where you couldn't even look at a white woman, and the perspective will always be that this person is the aggressor. He is aggressive, no matter what. Even if she is antagonizing him, he will pay for it. We've seen it historically. It's why it's not something that's ever funny. And you cannot antagonize this man and then say, use buzzwords as in postured. Well, he postured that. Well, of course the Black man is angry. Of course he's aggressive. Of course she's the victim. Of course she would never. And that's not always the case. We've seen Black men and Black women be wrongfully accused, and many, many years later, someone who said that they were abused, or harm was done, or something was stolen, and we find out that it didn't happen, but that person was penalized simply because they're Black. We're just not going to listen as often. So it's really important that she understands it's not just antagonizing that person. It's antagonizing the person of color who will often pay for your misguided behavior. And then to now victimize yourself in a way where you know chances are you're not going to be the person who's seen as the aggressor. Even me as a woman, and I think Katina, that's probably what got her upset. If there's something going on chances are, if I respond in a particular way, I will be seen as aggressive or assertive. And there's a space for our white counterparts where they can be and they cannot be. And there's excuses made. There's so-and-so may be acting out, and it might be anxiety. For me, I'm mean, I'm aggressive, I'm angry. Historically, that is what it is. There is no argument that would make that anything other than it is. And so there is a lot of emotion tied to that. And so in antagonizing her husband, her Black husband, and then saying that you felt threatened and triggered, it really opens up a wound that really runs so deep. And if you don't experience it, if you have not experienced it both personally or within a family member or a friend who's a person of color, then you don't truly understand it enough to say, well, that couldn't be it. You don't know. And so I think it was really, really important for her to bring that up. And I think that's why Katina has responded so angrily. And, you know, Elijah Juan, he's kind of backed off. Hey, I'm not going to make this thing go even further. I'm going to set my boundaries and then I'm going to fall back, because it won't ever work out to where he is right. Like, we're very clear to see it. But if it escalated, it wouldn't be, there would not be much accountability on her end. And I think that's what's pissed me off in watching Lindsey, is there's no accountability on her end. So this is probably how we do some things is how we do all things, probably a recurring theme for her. And we can see that she acts out of order. That's just Lindsey, or you gotta watch Lindsey, but nobody else is getting that pass, and that's not fair, and she shouldn't be enabled. And a lot of people are this way. It's not just Lindsey, but we're seeing it very clearly. And for some of us, it's very clear to see like what's happening behind the scenes and some of the buzzwords that are used that may go over some people's heads, but they are very real. They're very significant, and I'm glad they're calling it out. And she might not be intentionally doing it, but it doesn't matter, because you end up mimicking things that happen, things that are okay, things that have been excused for you. End up like perpetuating some of that behavior, whether you realize it or not, and it doesn't make it okay if you don't realize it. So I'm glad that she got that cultural lesson. I hope that she does better, and we'll stay tuned to see. All right. That's my rant for this week. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. Let me know what you guys thought. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. I think the likes really do something on this video, so make sure that you like the video and share it, and I will see you guys next week. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.